Good morning. I'm going to share this really quickly into the event, and we're waiting for Ashley to hop on. You guys, I come to you every morning, pre-workout, pre-gym, so usually still in pajamas because I'm not going to get dressed and makeup before I do that. So it is like 8 a.m. here in Colorado, and so if you're tuning in live or even watching the replay, let me know where you're tuning in from. I'd love to know. So today we are talking all about inflammation, and we know that inflammation is the root cause of all disease, and that can completely and totally affect our gut microbiome. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
All right. I should have copied this.
You want me to go? Or are you still
Um,
finishing a thought? I just jumped on and didn't catch what you're saying.
yeah, so I just said that we're going to be talking about inflammation. That's it. Inflammation is the root cause of all disease. And Ashley's going to tell her story today, and we're going to give you 3 tips on how to reduce inflammation. So inflammation, like an analogy I like to use, it's like somebody comes and is knocking on your door, right? Trying to get your attention. And they're just going to keep knocking louder and louder and louder and louder and louder until you answer, okay? So when you ignore it, it only causes more and more problems, okay? So inflammation might show up for you like digestive issues like constipation, diarrhea, bloating, acid reflux, IBS, or it could show up in other ways. It could show up in skin conditions like psoriasis, eczema, acne, and it can show up in ways like chronic pain. Like some people will be like, oh, I just get headaches all the time, or I have a lot of back pain, I just hold it all in my back. So it can show up in lots and lots of different ways. Even people that are like, I'm constantly getting sick. I feel like I get sick all the time. Okay, that's probably because you're holding on to a lot of inflammation. So I'm going to let Ashley dive in, and I'm going to let her tell a little bit of her story, and then we're going to give you 3 tips to help with inflammation.
So I want to just kind of build off of what Tiffany said. She was talking about the guy knocking on your door, and it's not going to go away until you listen to it. And I want to point out that there are lots of ways to respond to that guy at the door. I'm not even going to try with the analogies because I can't think of a good one right now. But you may think you're responding in a good way, and it may be a good way. There may be 10 ways that you can respond to inflammation, and you may be responding in 5 ways, but your inflammation needs you to respond in one of the other 5 ways that you are not responding. So it's kind of different for everyone and how you need to respond to that inflammation. So a couple things that contribute to inflammation are stress and sleep deprivation. Those are 2 things that people don't really normally think are linked to inflammation, but they are. So de-stressing and getting better sleep and enough quality sleep are 2 things that you can do to improve inflammation. So if you're doing all the other things that people typically think of, but not doing those things, and your inflammation needs you to respond by those things, then it's not going to get very much better very fast or at all. So my story is that I was doing a lot of things that I thought my inflammation needed for me to do. And this kind of changes over time. So I was sick, and I was being healthy, and I was doing a lot of healthy things. But no one can do 100% of the healthy things because sometimes they're opposites. There may be phases where you need to exercise a lot, and there may be phases where you need to rest a lot. And those are opposites. So you may be doing something that is the opposite of what you need at that time, and in a different time it may be completely beneficial, but at that time it's not. So it's not that I was unhealthy. I wasn't. I was doing a lot of healthy things, and I was still very sick, and this inflammation
So
impacted me.
describe what that means when you say sick, because some people might
Right,
think,
right.
oh, she was throwing up every day, had the flu.
Yeah,
What was that
I
like?
was just getting there. So,
Oh, okay.
this is how my inflammation was different from a lot of other inflammation. I didn't have a lot of chronic pain. A lot of people think inflammation, you're going to have a lot of chronic pain. It didn't hurt that much. I mean, yes, there were aches and pains, but that wasn't very big part of it. I was weak. I would wake up in the morning, no matter how much quality sleep I got, I could hardly get out of bed. It's not that I was tired and needed to fall asleep. It was that my body was so heavy, I could hardly lift it. I had trouble lifting my arms sometimes. I had trouble walking because I was just so weak. And other days, it wasn't like that. I could walk around, I could run, I could work out. But not every day. And there were some days I just had to lay on the floor. I got dizzy. I felt like I wasn't stable. There was one time I passed out, and sometimes just breathing was work. So that's not typically what you think of when you think of inflammation. You think of swelling in your body, and most of the time I didn't have any noticeable swelling. I didn't have the pain. You think about inflammation in the digestive tract. Sometimes, yes, I did have that, but not all the time. It was very inconsistent. So it was hard for me to pinpoint what is it right now and what is causing it. And when I had foods that didn't agree with me, it wasn't that immediate response. It wasn't like I'd eat some gluten and dairy and all of a sudden I would be throwing up or having huge digestive issues. It was more, I had something every once in a while, and for an entire month I was sick. So it wasn't very easy to determine what foods were aggravating me or what other things. I would get hives all over my back from shampoo, but it wasn't immediate. It was just constant itching, and then sometimes there would be hives, and the hives would be there for a couple of weeks, even without changing my shampoo. So it was really confusing for me to try to pinpoint what was causing everything and what to do to heal from that.
As you're saying that, I've been starting to get hives on my arm. My
Yeah,
daily,
Tiffany gets
my daily
Tiffany
hives.
Tiffany
Yeah.
gets highs from things she can't avoid, like heat and,
Exercise. So I
environmental.
say I'm allergic to exercise. I'm allergic to like 12 trees and weeds and plants that all live here. I have no control over that. I'd like to
Yeah,
tell
and
everybody in the state to tear them out, but that
yeah.
ain't happening.
And see, when I was sick, I wished that there were one food that I could just completely eliminate. If I could eliminate all gluten and dairy for the rest of my life and never have problems, yes, please, because that's easy. But that wasn't it. If I went to a store and they had a lot of artificial fragrances and I'd smell them,
Oh, same here. Yeah.
I would just instant headache, dizzy, had trouble opening my eyes. Sometimes there would be tears coming out of my eyes because my eyes were just reacting to it. And I'd feel really weak and need to go outside.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I can totally relate to some of that. And maybe you can and maybe you can't. And I know both of us have, some chronic health issues and some autoimmune. But there are ways that we can start to take control of our inflammation to either prevent it or to start to turn it around. We're going to tell you like 3 of the top ones. There are other things, but we're just going to talk about the 3 top things. And the first one is to take an omega supplement. And I say a supplement because unless you're somebody that's eating fish every single day and you know for a fact it doesn't contain mercury, you're probably not getting enough omega-3 fatty acids in your body. And omega-3 fatty acids cannot be made by your body alone. You can only get that through consuming foods. And most people just don't get enough. It's very rare I meet people that are like, oh yeah, I love fish. I eat it on a regular basis. I'm landlocked, okay? I'm in Colorado. So unless it's fresh, I'm not eating it. That may not really like it, right? Um, And so there are ways you can get a plant-based stuff, but you do need to be consistently eating it every single day. And we know that it is omega-3 fatty acids are really crucial for reducing inflammation in the body and in the brain. It's really good for brain health. So that's really important. So usually the one thing as far as supplements go that I recommend that everybody should be taking is an omega-3. And so I don't like the fishy taste of omega-3s. Not all of them are created equal. Some of them can contain mercury. If they're cheap, I wouldn't trust them. So I take one that's a plant-based omega-3, so it doesn't have that fishy taste or anything like that. So if you're interested, you could talk to me or Ashley about that, how to get a hold of that. But taking a really high-quality omega supplement is one way to help control your inflammation so it doesn't control you.
Another way is to eat a bunch of anti-inflammatory foods like nuts, seeds, berries, lots of veggies, especially green veggies. What else do we have, Tiffany, for
Yeah, just in general,
anti-inflammatory?
fruits and vegetables and plant-based things are really, really good for that. Um, so I will, yeah, just adding those things in. I'm all about adding in instead of taking out, like unless you have like an actual allergy or intolerance, which I think I talked about the other day. Like for me, it's not gluten or dairy. It's kale, it's tomatoes, it's, bananas, right? And so just to name a few, but making sure we're adding in. So eating a lot of those things are going to be really important to help with the anti-inflammatory.
The third one is avoid gluten, good Lord. Avoid GMO and any foods with chemicals on it, pesticides. It does make a difference. Make sure to wash your fruits and veggies, get everything off. I like to soak mine in a mixture of vinegar and water. You can just Google the proportion for that. And it helps to get things off of your fruits and veggies that you don't want on them and you don't want to be eating.
So I kind of, I think genetically modified food can be kind of controversial. In fact, I saw a book yesterday at the library. It was like on display that said why we shouldn't fear genetically modified foods. And there were like 30 pages of fact science. So I'm like, interesting, but do you work for these, like
Mm-hmm.
Monsanto or something?
Yeah.
Anyway, we do know that science has linked a lot of chronic illness and inflammation to consuming genetically modified foods. So basically what happens is these foods are genetically modified and some are worse than others. Okay, so just let me just say that. So genetically modified basically so that they can be sprayed with pesticides or whatever, kill the bugs and it doesn't kill the plants. And so what happens is even if you're washing your food, you're still consuming those chemicals and our bodies don't know how to react to those chemicals. So this is a way that toxins are entering your body that are causing a lot of harm. And so a good rule of thumb, if you're kind of like, how do I know, is to follow the dirty dozen. Okay, so the dirty dozen is very much like those are the foods that are more likely to be have a lot of chemicals, a lot of pesticides, or to be genetically modified in a way that kills the bugs but not but you're still going to be consuming um, those chemicals. So take a look at that list. And just in my house, if it's on the dirty dozen, it must be organic. That's just a rule in my house. So it's either fresh organic, frozen organic. My kids know that like the middle of winter, grapes are not on season, and so we're not buying them because they're not organic. So
So, so it's also good to kind of get local and know your farmers, because just because it says it's organic doesn't mean it's 100% free of pesticides and things that you don't want to eat. And just because it doesn't say organic doesn't mean that it's not safe to eat and actually organic, because it's a process to go through to get something certified as organic. So if you know your farmer, it's a local person that has something at the farmer's market, and you talk to them, and they don't have that stamp that says it's organic, but you talk to them and you feel like it's probably better than what you buy in the store, then go with that, because it is, there are a lot of fees associated with that stamp of organic, which doesn't necessarily mean 100% organic. So if you can go to those farmers markets and you can talk to the people and you can get the warm and fuzzy of what you're putting into your body, that can actually be better than organic or not organic.
And like just another example, even though it's not produce, like my mom has chickens, and so I only eat the eggs that come from those chickens because I know that they're like raised in a humane way, which is important for me. But also I know what they eat, and you are what that chicken ate. Like that's what's
Yeah.
getting into your body, and you would be appalled to know what they feed some of these chickens in these farms, okay, that you're eating. So that's just kind of one example of kind of knowing. So
Yeah,
um,
and Tiffany was telling me that she'll buy eggs at the store and she reacts to them, but when she eats eggs from her mom's chicken, she's completely fine.
yeah. So there's something to that. So today your challenge is to, look into taking a high quality omega supplement, start to pay attention to eat more anti-inflammatory foods, and pay attention and maybe start to avoid some of the genetically modified foods. And tomorrow we're going to come to you and we're going to be talking all about your gut microbiome, which is just a fancy word of talking about the good and bad gut bacteria that lives in your digestive system and how that affects your health. And we wanted to remind you, if you haven't yet taken the gut health quiz, there's still a few spots available for you to fill in and take that quiz. Um, you take the quiz, you answer the questions, you hop on a free consultation with us, and we're going to tell you what your gut type is, whether or not you have signs and symptoms of leaky gut, and we'll give you some tips on how to start to turn that around.
And if you haven't done all the things you need to do to get those prize entries for days 1 through 3, there's still time. You can catch up, go back, do those things, and the prize entries for today. And we'll be back tomorrow for more.
Sounds good. So we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.